Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for standing by and welcome to BI Hub's webinar. Today, we will walk you through our webinar titled Accelerate Your Governance, BI ROI while using multiple BI systems. During the presentation, all participants will be in listen-only mode. If you have a question during the presentation, please submit it via the Q&A portion of the screen. Simply type your question into the box and click the send button. Our presenter will address questions at the end of the presentation, time permitting. If you don't hear an answer to your question today, don't worry, we will deliver answers to you individually after the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and a link to the replay will be sent to you via email. Presenting today is Ulysses Hubbard. Ulysses is the Vice President of Software Products and Innovation at Visual BI Solutions. I will now turn the presentation over to the presenter.
Hi everyone, welcome. Welcome to Visual BI's webinar on BI governance, return on investment for your reports, and having multiple BI platforms. As Christian said, my name is Ulysses, and I'm the Vice President of Software Products and Innovation at Visual BI. Let me talk to you a little bit about Visual BI, who we are, and as a company. So we started as a consulting company, and as we grew, then we realized that a lot of our consulting customers, they had some gaps that they couldn't fix based on their current BI reporting tools, right? For example, if they were using SAP Lumira, they might have a set of graphs and charts that were available, but there were some other ones that they wanted to build that were not available in SAP Lumira. So we started building components to fit those gaps, right? And then we grew into now creating what we have today as a BI hub and some of the pros that I'll talk to in a minute. But I wanted to kind of give you an idea of who our customers are. Hopefully this will give you an idea of what kind of companies trust us with their data, with their projects, by buying our products, by contracting us for consulting services. So you can see companies here like Walmart, Toyota, Home Depot, Duracell, Rolls-Royce, for example, right? Rio Tinto. Hopefully this gives you an idea that Visual BI, we're a company that's been around for 10 years. We've been growing a lot. We're not just a couple of guys sitting on our mother's basement writing code, right? We're a serious company that's been around, that a lot of other companies trust us with their software solutions. Today we're going to be talking mostly about BI Hub, but I wanted to give you an idea of some of the other products that we currently have. ValQ, it's a planning tool that is used for budgeting, allocation, forecasting. It's a really awesome tool that you can basically build a model of your company or multiple models for different functions of your company, and then do what if scenarios. You can do planning, you can forecasting in that same tool. You can visualize your data. For example, you can say, what happens if I increase my salaries by 5%? What is that going to do to my bottom line, right? What is that going to do to my EBITDA? What's that going to do to my earnings per share, for example? Same thing you can do for supply chains management, for inventory, HR count, whatever you want. XBIS is a suite of components, custom components specifically for Microsoft Power BI. Basically, they're charts, they're graphs, they're tables that you can pretty much drag and drop from Power BI into your report, and then be able to create those charts and those graphs that you want. Because we'll talk a lot about BI Hub today, but I wanted to start talking about what I call the jungle. But let me step back a little bit. I've been with Visual BI for about 8 years. And before that, I was a BI manager for a company called Valero Energy. And I was there for a number of years. Before that, I was a BI developer. So I've been in the BI space for well over 20 years now. And I've seen the same problems kind of over and over and over. And it kind of goes like this, right? A company needs a report that will solve all of their problems, right? And there's some executive or some business manager somewhere that needs it like yesterday. So I'm sure you've heard this story before. Especially if you're in IT, or if you're an IT manager or a BI manager, or even a business power user. So anyway, somebody, either an IT developer or a business power user, builds a report. It usually takes from several days to probably several weeks to get it perfect. Finally, the report goes live, right? That means it gets released to everybody, it gets put into the production system, and everybody's able to see it. However, only a few people actually use the report. And that's because it gets lost in what I call the jungle, which is like an immense number of reports, right? The jungle has, there's so many reports in there that have been written by many different people for many different purposes. Some of them are completed and they're tested and they're validated, the whole 9 yards, they're perfect. But then some of them are completed, but maybe not thoroughly validated. Maybe some of them are kind of complete, but not really. Some of them are not even complete. And then some of them are obviously completely, totally wrong. Unfortunately, all of them are in this jungle, right? They're all together without any easy way to distinguish them, to separate them, an easy way to really make sense of which reports can be trusted and which reports cannot be trusted. Sure, that sounds familiar to most of you. Yeah, you can be honest. Now, on top of that, when you add the fact that most companies have all these reports in different reporting tools, like for example, they might have some reports in Tableau, some reports in Power BI, some reports in Spotfire, you name it, then now you add further complications, because now you have multiple systems, you have multiple logins, you have multiple different folder structures, multiple owners, multiple power users, etc., etc. So now your jungle is just multiple jungles, right? Jungles on top of jungles. You can see what the problem is, right? You have invested an enormous amount of time, effort, and money on your report. And if they're in this jungle, nobody can find them and nobody can make sense of them, they're not really being used, or they might be used by only a handful of people that actually know about this report. But you might say, well, if they can't find it, they just build another one and just move on, right? Okay, fair enough, except for, I would say, maybe a couple of things. One is, the more reports that you build, obviously, the bigger you create in this jungle, right? So you're making this problem even worse. If people cannot find the report that they're looking for and they build a new report, they just throw it in the jungle and it gets lost in the jungle again, right? And the other big problem is that reports and dashboards are very expensive. Most people really don't realize it, but I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been a developer and I've been a BI manager. I had to pay, developer salaries. I had to pay for consultants, either on-site, which is very expensive, or even offshore, which is more reasonable, but it's still not cheap, right? I'm sure if you're a BI manager or an IT manager, you already know this. I would say, as a rule of thumb, you can say that a report in average might take about a week to develop, and maybe a dashboard would take well over 2 weeks. And that's a barely minimum average. Even with these estimates, assuming a very conservative, maybe $50 an hour, you're looking at reports that cost at least $2,000 each report, and dashboards probably an average of about $5,000. And these are like your regular daily kind of reports, right? I know when I was a BI developer, I spent well over 6 months on a very, very, very complicated reports when I was at Valero. So you can imagine the time and obviously the money that the company invested to create that report. And it's not just the developer's time, right? Because when you pile on top of the developer cost, if you pile in the time that, for example, the vice president or the manager, or whoever requested this report, they have to meet with the developer, they have to give in the specification, somebody has to test the report, somebody has to manage the project, so it piles up. Once, before you know it, those reports are worth several $1,000s. And if you have 100 of these reports, or even 1,000 of these reports, then you're really looking at having an investment just in reports of very easily in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, or very likely in the millions of dollars, right? And all of those reports are right there. They're in the jungle, right? And people can't find them. And the ones that can't find them, they only use the ones that they actually know about the report and why it was created and all, things like that. So that's kind of where we come from, where we get into governance and ROI. It sounds like a bunch of buzzwords just to get you to come to the webinar, but in reality, it's not. I mean, let's kind of break it down. BI governance, it's you try to control and order, but not just for the sake of control, right? Hopefully, in this webinar, we're going to learn to look at BI governance from a new perspective. And that perspective to me is identifying which reports and dashboards are really worthy to be taken out of the jungle and then showcase them in this beautiful showroom. Let me repeat that. The idea here is to identify which reports are worthy or deserve to be taken out of this jungle where nobody can find anything, where nobody can make sense of things, and then put them in this beautiful showroom. Of course, we call this showroom BI Hub, right? So what does this mean? It means that not all reports need to be exposed to everybody, right? When doing BI governance. Only those good reports, those that have validated data, those that should actually be used by the organization to make decisions should be displayed in this showroom. Think about your executives, your vice presidents, senior managers. Will they actually jump into the jungle and try to find reports and make sense of those, thousands of reports that are available? Probably not. Right? So what you or do they need like a nice, easy to use, simple user interface that allows them to just see the reports that they care about, knowing that they can trust them, and they're nicely, neatly organized. And it doesn't matter for them whether a report comes from Tableau or from Power BI or from Spotfire or from a Excel spreadsheet. All they want to go is they go to one single place when they can access all of the reports that they need to access and run the report, see the data, make decisions, and move on with their lives. They don't have to jump into the jungle and try to pull out weeds and anything like that. BI Hub does allow you to bring all your reports into BI Hub. So if that's what you need, if you just need to consolidate all your reports into a single place, if you don't have a big jungle, then you can bring those reports into BI Hub and expose all of them and have access to all of them. But since we're talking about governance, then the point of this is leave the jungle, identify those reports that you really need to expose to your company, and then put them in a neatly organized way for people to actually access them, make decisions, etc. Now, it's not just enough, or it's not enough just to put stuff into this new showroom, right? People still need to know that because you're probably going to end up with dozens or more than likely hundreds of reports, even in this neatly showroom. In order to allow people to actually use the reports, they need to trust the reports, right? If you don't trust the report, you're not going to be using them. So let's talk about what would it take for me to trust a report. Right? For example, if somebody that actually knows already validated the report and he tells me, okay, I validated these reports, this data is good, trusted, then I would trust it. Perfect. Maybe if I know who owns the report, like who maintains it, who's the expert of it, then I'll be able to trust that report. If I know who wrote it, at least that'll give me an idea, right? If an intern that was here 5 summers ago wrote it in his internship and nobody's using it since, then I probably know that I probably shouldn't trust it, right? But if a very good BI developer wrote it in the IT department, for example, then I know I can trust it. Or if somebody that I know that is a power user that knows what they're doing when it comes to data and reporting on my business area, then I'll be able to trust that report. If I know who the report was created for, right? If I know that the report was created for finance, more than likely I'll be more inclined to trust it than if it was created for, I don't know, a training session, right? For example. Another thing is if I could have some good documentation and information about that particular report, something that tells me probably all this information, like who owners, who wrote it, what's it for, when was it created, all that information. If I had that information, I'd be more inclined to trust that report. And obviously, if I trust the report, I'll be more inclined to be able to use that report. If I know that others especially others around my area. If I know that they're using it, I'll be more inclined to use it. If others are talking about this report, then and I can see what they're saying about this report, then I'll be able to trust it as well. So that's kind of where BI Hub really puts everything together to enable you to, number one, clean the jungle, right? Declutter that and create some showroom of reports that are easily accessible, beautiful to look at. You can find stuff, you can organize things, and more importantly, you can add stuff to the report that doesn't exist anywhere else. Add some value to that report by adding things like, I'll show you things like who wrote it, right? Who owns it? Has it been validated? Is there any documentation? That kind of stuff. So let me jump into the live demo. So first, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of BI Hub, and then we'll talk about how BI Hub can enable you for your BI governance, and then how that BI governance and being able to add all this extra value to the report, value that doesn't exist anywhere else, how that would actually increase your return on investment on the reports, right? We talked about you probably have hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment on your reports, probably millions of dollars for some bigger companies, right? But they're not being used. Once you enable some of these features in BI Hub, once you add the extra value that BI Hub provides, then people will be more likely to use a report, use it obviously to make decisions and things like that. So first, let me go over BI Hub. What we're looking at here is what we call a dashboard, and this is a place where me as a user, I can create, or I can define which reports I want to add to my front page or to my home page, and those reports will actually get live data. So the data that we're looking at here, every time I log into BI Hub, it will actually go back to the data source, get the latest data, and then run the report and display it on the screen. That way, if I have some reports that that I use every day or very often, I don't even have to go in there, look for the report, and click on it to execute it. I'll just put them in my homepage, and whenever I come into BI Hub, the report is right there for me already with the latest data available. Right? Here on the left-hand side, you can see different ways that you can organize the report. Let me start here at the very bottom. This is the BI platform. So the BI platform, these are all the reports that exist on all the different BI tools that we connect to. For example, in our case, we have business objects, we have Looker, we have Power BI, we can bring stuff from SharePoint and OneDrive, SSRS, SAP Analytics Cloud, ClickView, Spotfire, Tableau. Right? So assuming that I had all these different reporting tools and there's hundreds of reports on each one, I can bring all those reports into a BI Hub. And I can expose them here. I mean, so if somebody actually wanted to, let's say a Power BI user, if they actually wanted to see the folder structure as it exists in Power BI with all the reports that they have access to in Power BI, they can actually come in here and they can browse through the folder structure and all that stuff, right? Which is fine and great. However, we're talking about governance, and the point of governance is like this thing that we're looking at here. This is the jungle, right? We just brought all the different jungles together, right? Again, if that's what you're trying to do, that's fine. It works. It works actually beautifully because you're able to access all of your reports from a single place. Again, if you don't have a jungle, then this is one way to do it. Bring them all here, access them from here, you're good. But since we're talking about governance, we're talking about weeding out the jungle, right? And then creating or identifying those reports that are really meant to be used and organize them and adding value to those reports so that people can actually use it. So that's when these hub folders come into play. Hub folders are reports that an administrator or a power user, they took them out of this jungle down here and then organized them and in different folder structures, and then added those reports or dashboards into different folders. For example, under finance, somebody created this finance folder, and they have two subfolders, forecast and sales. Under sales, you have all these sales related reports. Now, I'm going to come back to this because there's a lot of information here, a lot of stuff that I want to show you. But just to continue up here, so these are folders that administrators or power users create for the entire company, right? So they're shared for everybody and they're organized for everybody. which is what you want when you're trying to do governance, right? However, me as a user, maybe I have a set of reports that I use on a consistent basis, and I want to organize them the way I want to organize them, right? So I can actually take them from either from the BI folders, the hub folders, or even from the BI platform. I can take them from here, and then I add them to my own folder structure if I wanted to. By the way, I should say, as far as the BI platforms, all these jungles, this option can actually be hidden. So if you're trying to do governance and you're trying to prevent users from seeing all these reports in the jungle, and you just want them to see all the reports that are already cleaned up and validated and stuff like that, then you can actually hide this BI platform tab, so they won't be able to see it. So they won't be able to access the reports in the jungle, and they would only be able to access the reports in the hub folders that have been already organized, cleaned up, etc. Right? Anyway, so I can put reports into my own folder structure if I wanted to. And also what most people do is they just add it to their favorites, right? If you see any report anywhere else, you can just click on the heart. And as soon as you click on the heart, it'll show up here as one of your favorites. And again, you can have your favorites. You can, if there's a report that you don't want as a favorite, just click on the heart, and then it goes away from your favorites. And there's a lot of information here that I'll go back and I'll show you. And then we talked about the homepage. So again, the left-hand side is just different ways for you to organize data. One of them is all the jungles. The other one is this is the reports that, or the reports that have been validated, cleaned up, whatever, and organized in a neatly way. These are my own stuff. These are my own favorites. And then the home, again, is the reports that I really want to run every day when I log into BI Hub. Then they'll immediately be here, and that'll be my home page. Then you have the history, which that kind of just tells me these are the reports that I've run recently, and these are the reports that I've used the most. So even if I don't put anything on my favorites, even if I don't organize stuff in my folders, but I consistently run a set of reports, then they'll be automatically here for me to see. So now let's talk about that stuff about adding value to the reports and how BI Hub enables that. So you can see by just having this differentiation between your BI platforms, the jungle, and the BI folders, where you can consolidate reports from all the different platforms into a single folder structure, that kind of starts weeding out or getting you out of the jungle and into the showroom, right? But that's not it. Again, what we said was, once you have a report, then you might be able to find it, but you still don't know whether you can trust it. Right? So that's where multiple of these things come into play. Okay. So first, let's say if I wanted to know if the report has been validated. So in BI Hub, we created something specifically for that purpose. We thought that the best way for people to know whether they can trust a report is if it's actually being validated. We actually call it certified, which is actually a stronger word than validated in my mind, right? So if it's been certified, that means somebody looked at it, somebody kind of put their stamp of approval on this. And we created out of the box 3 different levels of certification. We have the silver certification, we have gold certification, like on this report, and we have platinum certification, like on this report. And you can define this whichever way you want to, but for our purposes, we define, for example, if the report has been validated, certified by a power user, then it's a silver report, right? For example, if it's been validated by IT, then it will be a gold report. If it's been validated by IT and maybe a subject matter expert, then it could be a platinum report. So here, very quickly, if you're an executive, you're a business manager, you don't want to jump into the jungle, but you come in here and you see this platinum report, this gold report. You know you can trust those reports pretty much, right? You don't have to wonder, you don't have to ask anybody whether you can use it or not. You can see it, you know that you can trust that it's been certified, and then you can use it. So that's the first way. I keep going back to that. Okay. So what if I know who owns it, right? Each one of these reports have a set of attributes. Some of the attributes, we call them also metadata. Some of these attributes, they come out of the box with BI Hub. But what we did with BI Hub was something very, very unique, in which you as a user, or you as, as a power user, or as an administrator, you can actually add whatever number of attributes that you want, right? And then we make it really easy for you to populate those attributes and things like that. But just to show you, for example, this is the information for a report. Let me open maybe this one. So I have standard things, right? Like the name of the report, the description of the report, what kind of report is it? Is it a Tableau, Power BI? Where is it? All this other stuff. But it also tells me that it's been certified, right? It tells me what department it was written for, right? It gives me documentation. I'll show you this. This is really cool. I'll show you that documentation in a minute. And it shows me who the subject matter expert is, right? And also you can put tags and things like that. We cancel out of here. Let me, so with this one, if I know who the subject matter expert is, I know kind of who owns the report, then if I know that person, then I know that maybe I can trust the report, or maybe at least I can go in and I know who to ask. I know who to go with questions, maybe requests, or things like that. What I'm doing that, let me show you. Give me 1 second, Okay. Let me show you different views. This is what I would call the showroom view of BI Hub, right? You have a lot of graphs, charts, thumbnails, colors. It looks really cool, but you can only see a few things on the screen. So if you have many reports and you don't want to scroll all the way down, then you can have a different view, which is this one. It kind of gets rid of all the thumbnails, but you can get more stuff on the screen. And then in addition, if you need more space or even more flexibility, you have the list view, which is this view. And this one has, again, the same reports that you were seeing before, except you can see other information in it right away. For example, this is the owner of the report, right? This is the subject matter expert. This is the documentation field. This is the department. And there's some other things. And you can probably have, maybe you wanted to show whether it's in mobile enabled, you can click on that. Or if maybe you don't want to see the instance name, you can get rid of that. So you can configure this to whatever you need. And again, these are the fields that came out of the box. But if you have a need for other fields, for example, I don't know, maybe you wanted to identify what region the reports were meant for, right? You could create another field within BI Hub and then populate it for all these reports to tell people what region the report in. Or it could be some kind of a date, right? Maybe the certification date or something like that. You can do that, and you can add that field in BI Hub, and it'll automatically show up here in this list. So basically, we kind of out of the box, we give you an idea of the stuff that you can do, but it doesn't limit you from using your imagination, your needs, to really expand BI Hub to really fit your needs with all the metadata that you need for your business. So who wrote it? Well, we can say that's probably the owner, maybe the subject matter expert. Again, you can have an extra field where you actually specify the business owner, for example, right? If I know who was created for, that's what we call here the department. So if it was created for finance, then I don't know if I'm able to use it. If it was created for IT and it's not an IT report, then I don't know if I should trust it, but at least I know the subject matter expert and I can go and ask them, right? Any questions about that? Again, kind of to remind you what we're doing here is we're looking at ways of how can we enable users to make a determination whether they can trust a report or not so that they can use it. And the more information we give them, the easier is it for them to make a determination and actually start using the report. Again, when they use a report, then they increase your return on investment, because you're actually all that investment, millions of dollars that you have in reports, they'll actually be used to make decisions to make more money or to save money or for whatever the report is intended to be. That's why it's important for me to kind of go one by one on this one to kind of show you how exactly BI Hub can enable you to help your users, your report users, to trust the reports and use the reports. Now, this is my favorite. If I could have some good documentation and information about a particular report. A lot of what happens is whenever somebody requests a report, they probably write a Word document or something that with the specifications, and then they put that Word document somewhere in the network and it gets completely lost, right? And there's no tie between that Word document and the actual report that's saved in Power BI or in Tableau or in Spotfire, right? So you either have, if you're semi-organized, which is more than what most companies do, then you can have a repository of all these documentations in some folder structure. So people would have to go into that repository to weed through all those Word documents to figure out the report that you're looking for, look for the documentation for that, and then read the documentation. More than likely, that's not going to happen, right? What we did here in BI Hub is that we actually brought all that stuff together, right? In this case, for example, in the case of this report, I have this documentation link. If I click on it, then it'll actually open up a Word document that was created for this particular report. Now, somebody has to build this documentation. It doesn't come with BI Hub, but you can build this documentation. For example, you can have a screenshot of the report. You can have the title of the report, which is Executive View Profitability. You can say things like, okay, who requested it? Okay, it was John Miller, which is the Vice President of Global Sales. Okay, cool. I mean, that gives me information whether to make a determination whether I can trust this report. Again, going back to that. If I know it was written for a Vice President of Global Sales and it's a profitability report, then more than likely I'll be able to trust it. It tells me when it was requested, when it was completed. So maybe it was a couple of years ago. So I mean, that might give you some pause if the report is still relevant or not, but more than likely it probably is, right? If it was requested and completed last month, then I know that more than likely I can trust it because it's not that old. Right? You can put things, again, this is a free format. You can just do whatever you want. I just did this kind of to show you, right? So you can put things like, okay, has this report been certified? Yeah, it's been certified, it's platinum. When was it certified for? You can put things like who certified it and all this other stuff. You can put more information about the department, right? What was the intended audience? Whether it was finance, okay, the report was intended for finance executives. Again, that tells me that I can trust it. It says it can be used by anyone interested in step-by-step performance and profitability in the United States. You can put things like data sources, whether you added any filters or not. For example, in this case, there's a date filter and it's interactive. So in the report, you can select what dates you want to filter by. And there's also a hard-coded filter, which tells me is for the US region only. So when you look at the map, everything is grayed out except for the US, right? So things like that. You can put a long description. You can put the subject matter expert with their phone number, their email address, whatever. Again, this is free format. You can do whatever you want. It could be a Word document, it could be a PDF file, it could be a URL link to whatever you want. But just to give you an idea of the power of having the report in the same system linked to the documentation for that report. And not only that, to be able to also have quick data on that, like the subject matter expert, the department. And then in this view, another cool thing is that you can actually filter, kind of like Excel, right? You can say, give me all the reports that have been where the subject matter expert is Ulysses, right? Or where the subject matter expert is Devraj. That's pretty neat. Right? Or maybe I want to see only all the finance reports. Right, there you go. So again, a lot of flexibility that this gives you to make it easy for to the users, to make them want to be in the system because it has a very nice user interface. It's usable. It's pretty. It gives them a lot of information, so they don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure stuff out. Another one is if I know that others are already using it. Like if I have a whole bunch of people using that report, then I know that probably I can trust it. If this is a report that nobody's seen, then I might be more inclined to not trust it. For example, here, this tells me that this report has been viewed 21 times, right? Again, this is just our webinar environment, so there's not a lot of activity. But if I see this one has 21 views compared to this one that has 1 view, I'll be more inclined to look to trust this report that a lot of people are using, right? That they're viewing this report compared to one that's only been viewed once. And lastly, and this is another very cool feature, is if others are talking about this report and what are they saying about it, it'll also give me an idea whether I can trust it or not. And that's where our comments come into play. Our comments really started from our we wanted to, what's the word? We wanted to enable collaboration where people can actually talk about a report, have a conversation related to a particular report. The comments are here with, on this particular report, for example. Let me open it up. This one has just hello, right? What I can say, for example, this report has been validated as of 6/20, what's today, 18/2020. For example, I can just put that comment in there, make it available for everybody. So if anybody comes in here, they know that that the report has been validated. Or I can say this report has a bug in the actuals column. And then I can actually say, point to somebody like Rodney, for example. Rodney, please take a look and get it fixed, right? So if I put a comment like this, right, a couple of things will happen. One of them would be Rodney Brown would actually get a notification in BI Hub telling him that I mentioned him in that particular post with a link on it. And when he clicks on the link, it'll take him to this report and to the comment section so he can see what I wrote. And then he can reply to me, and then we can have a conversation in here. But another thing that he does, especially when it comes to governance and whether you can trust a report or not, what that allows you to do is, if I'm looking at these comments, let's say I don't know anything about this report, but I like it, I want to use it. If I read this, the report has a bug, then I know that I shouldn't really trust it. Right? Now, if the next comment is from Rodney saying, okay, it's been fixed, thank you, then I know that I can trust it again. Right? So hopefully that will give you a high-level idea of how BI Hub can actually enable all this. Number one, it can clear the clutter to put in some organization, bringing all the reports from the different jungles together into a single one, and also organize them in a nice, neatly and usable way. And second one, to add more value to each one of these reports to have more information on it. Now, you also have some other features that I want to kind of spend a couple of minutes to tell you. One of my favorite features is the search, right? Especially when you have many reports, and you can still browse through the folder structure and go find what you want. But if you have a search, then you can search for what you want. One of the search items that you can use is the tags. So I can, as a power user, I can tag a report. For example, if I wanted to see only my sales reports and I tag them, all the reports as sales, somebody can come in here and say, show me all the reports that have been tagged with sales. And then it'll give me all the reports that have been tagged with sales. Another very cool thing is that even in this view, I still have the option of going to see on this view, or I can go into this other view. And even if I'm on this view, then I can still say, okay, now show me all the reports that have been tagged with sales, which is this list, and then only the ones that have been where the subject matter expert is, it's me, right? Ulysses. There you go. So you can filter on filters on filters on these reports. It's pretty neat. Another one, you don't have to use a tag. You can just say, okay, give me reports that match the word commission. And there it is, my commission model. Again, I can see everything here. I can actually run the report from here. That's one thing that I haven't really shown you, how to actually run the report, right? So from here, again, you can have any different of these views, but if you wanted to, you can just click on the report, simple, and then it tells you I'm working on it, and then pretty soon you're gonna see a tab here. Now, while that's running, it doesn't tie up your browser, so you can go back to do another search, do something else, right? And then later on, come back to the report that's already run, and you see your commission report, and it's already waiting here. If you wanted even more real estate, you can say, okay, give it to me in full screen, and then it shows up in full screen, and then you can interact with the report even better with more real estate. Another thing that you can say, it's immediately, instead of having to open it and then go full screen, you can say open it in its own tab. You click on this one, and instead of opening in a tab here within BI Hub, it actually opens up into a new browser tab. Again, just giving more people more flexibility to be able to do what they want fast, as fast as they want, in the format that they want, whether they want to see in the browser window, or if they want to see it within BI Hub, so they can quickly tab between the different reports, right? When it comes to search, there's also the advanced search, which is also very cool. You can say, okay, give me the reports where the name is sales, and I want to see only Power Reports and I don't know, ClickView reports, and only where the user matter expert is Devorash, right? And only the ones that have been platinum certified. You can do a search, and it'll give you, that type of filtering. So very, very powerful, very, very exciting. I know we have about 15 minutes, and I want to give some time for questions. I think we cover everything. I wanted to show you just this, the notifications. Well, in here in the notifications, this is what if somebody had tagged me, then I will get a notification. It'll show up in here. In setting, I can decide whether I want to actually get an email notification when somebody tags me. I can actually get an email, or maybe I just wanted to see the notifications when I come into BI Hub. The admin mode is if you're a power user or administrator, you have more power than a regular user, and you can do some administration, and that's what the admin mode is. Just to give you a very, very high level overview of this. It gives you a high level overview of your system status, whether some of the reporting systems are up or down, right? It gives you some information about the users. Here's where you would organize the reports. If you have, these are all the BI platforms, all the different jungles, right? And then this is where you will organize the reports that you actually want in the showroom, as we say, right? If you remember, for example, on the other view, we had finance, so click on finance, and we had sales, and those are the sales reports. This is where you would actually come in here and edit some of these metadata. If you wanted to have a different custom field, or maybe you wanted to add a user, a subject matter expert, I can add myself, right, or somebody else, perfect. Or maybe the certification changed. Now maybe this report is being gold certified or whatever. You can just submit it, and if I have access to make this change, it'll make it. And now anybody that looks at that report, they'll be able to see that the subject matter expert is now me and Deborah, and the report is now certified. Another key item of governance is the audit, which is in BI Hub, we actually capture everything that happens. So every time somebody runs a report, every time somebody logs in, logs out, that kind of information, when they run which report. So if you need to do some reports for usage, right, to see which reports are being used at the beginning of the month, right, so you can be more proactive into those reports, make sure the data is up and all this other stuff, then you can do that. If you can run some reports that tell you which reports have not been used at all for the last 6 months or the last year, right? Again, you'll be able to use that on your governance to say, oh, these reports, we need to get them out of the showroom, put them back in the jungle because nobody's using them anyway. So what we did with BI Hub, we kind of look at governance from a different perspective. Again, from the perspective of, let's create a showroom where we can get stuff out of the jungle and put them in here for people to actually see. That is very, very usable. Not only that, but every single report, we can, every single report has a cost and a value, right? But adding all of these different things add more value to that report. So for example, originally you have just a simple report. By just adding a thumbnail, right, that shows you what the report looks like, that adds some value, right? Not only does it look more, prettier, but it also allows users to be able to identify the report very quickly. right? It's very different to look at something like this or something like this and know what the report looks like. So that adds some value. And I don't know if it's a monetary value, like the report is now worth, you know, $2,500 instead of $2,000. I don't know, but it does have some value. And then you have things that really make a difference, like certification, right? And then you have things like displaying who the SME is, a subject matter expert. Or you can override the description, because in a lot of cases, the description on the BI, on the report for the BI system might be maybe short, maybe it's obsolete, maybe it's not very descriptive. But if you're adding value to this report, you can put a very usable description on the report. And I don't think I show you that here quickly. Let me go back to user mode. The description of the report, you would see it here. Let me open this view. For example, go finance, sales. I know this one has a description. Oh, it doesn't. Anyway, you would see a description here on the when you hover over the report, and it tells you what the report is. It's what the description of the report is. Right? Anyway, each one of these adds like another layer of value that you're adding to the report, and you don't have to rewrite the report. You don't have to write a new report to add more value. You can just add those fairly simple little things, right? Again, you can add the department, tells people what's the intended audience. You can display what data sources are. You can add tags. You can add comments. You can add the full-blown documentation. So, and then again, like I say, you can really add custom fields to your heart's content, to your imagination, whatever fields you want, whether it's a date, whether it's a text field, whether it's a URL, whether it's a person. All those can be created within BI Hub to really meet your needs. So you can see by adding this value, you put in all of this stuff together into a single place. You don't have to go search to talk to somebody who talks to somebody to figure out who the SME is, or talk to somebody to find out what documentation is, or what data source it is, or what the report was intended to. When you put all this information into a single place that is neatly packaged for all users to see, and you give them more information, they'll be able to use this report more, right? More. And that's kind of the whole point of the governance. I'm pretty much done, and I think we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. So hopefully we have some good questions here. Let me go through the questions and see what we have. Okay. There's a question saying, is there a user limit? And can you adjust which users see which reports? Yes. All right. So I guess the first question is a licensing question. As far as the technology, there's no limit as far as the number of users. When it comes to licensing, if you're really interested about BI Hub and what it can do for your company, please reach out to us and we'll give you all the information. But at a very high level, and to answer this question, there's no limit on the number of users. So if you have 100 users or you have 200,000 users, it doesn't matter. As far as the licensing, it costs you the same. There's no limitation as far as the technology, so you can have as many users as you want. When it comes to report, same thing, right? If you have 100 reports or 10,000 reports, there's no limitation as far as the technology, and there's no limitation as far as the licensing. Can you adjust which users see which reports? And the answer to that is yes. So there's multiple levels of security in BI Hub. The main security is that it inherits the security from the BI system. So for example, you have on your Power BI system, you might have 1,000 reports, but this particular user only has access to 10 of those reports. So in BI Hub, he would only be able to see those 10 reports, not the other 990. Same thing for all the other reporting tools. And that's inherited. You as an administrator, you don't have to set that security. That's inherited, which is a huge advantage compared to other tools that do this, like SharePoint. You have to specify who can see what, or you can let everybody see everything, which again, you end up in a jungle. So yeah, you can set the security, you can inherit the security, which is the first level of filtering, if you will, as far as who can see what. Then within BI Hub, you can specify you can hide some reports from people if you wanted to. So there's another level of security in it as well. Okay, let me look through some of the other questions. One question is, are the reports duplicated in BI Hub? And do they have to be maintained in 2 places? So basically what that means, I think what they're asking is, if I have the report in Power BI and another report in Spotfire, do I actually bring those reports into BI Hub? So if I make it, if I need to make a change to that report, do I have to go to Power BI and make the change, and then go to BI Hub and make the change to the report as well? The answer is no. So we don't actually bring the report into BI Hub. So the report still exists in Power BI or in Tableau or in Spotfire or whatever this system. What we bring into BI Hub is all the metadata for the report, things like name, description, owner, things like that. And and we also bring a way for us to create a way to execute the report. The report that you have in Power BI, you can go in there, you can change the title of the report, and then you can go to BI Hub and run the report. BI Hub would actually go back to Power BI and execute the report in Power BI, and then you'll be able to see, it'll show you the new description or the new title that you put in, and display that report in BI Hub. So to make it clear, we don't duplicate the report, we just execute it from BI Hub, but the report stays in the BI system, Power BI, Tableau, or whatever. Another question is about, do you have single sign-on security, and what happens if your IDs are different? So yes, it is single sign-on enabled, which is very cool. Again, making it easier for customers. If you have an account in Power BI and your user account is Ulysses, and then you have another account in Tableau and your username there is Hubbard, or you have another one and username is 123XYZ, right? If you go into all the different tools yourself, you have to go in there and log into each one of them individually if you didn't have BI Hub. With BI Hub, you log into BI Hub, which is single sign-on. It uses your Windows authentication. So it's single sign-on. You don't even have to log into BI Hub. You log into BI Hub. Once you're in BI Hub, as long as your accounts are mapped, and that's an administrative activity that happens when you set up the system, as long as those accounts are mapped, then BI Hub, when you click on a report for Tableau, it sends the notification for Ulysses user account. If it's a Power BI report, then it's going to send the authentication for the Hubbard system user account, or to the other one, the 123XYZ account. So it's all single sign-on. You don't have to do anything. It works with different users' ID. One question is, what if I like it, but there's some specific features that are not available in BI Hub? For this, I would say most of the features that exist today in BI Hub have come from our customers, right? Either customers that are using the product, or people that looked at the product and had the same question as you, like, okay, I like it, but I would like to have this feature. So we're very customer oriented, we're very customer friendly, and whatever requirement comes from the customers, we prioritize it even on top of some of our own desires for features. So if there's a feature that a customer wants and he tells us, it'll be great if you do this, I'll buy it, or if you do this, even if I don't buy it, it's a great idea, then we'll prioritize that and we'll put it into a roadmap and be able to do it. Now, if going even beyond that, we have customers that have come and said, I like it, it solves most of our problems, but there is one particular customer, they wanted their own user interface. So they didn't want it to look like BI Hub. They wanted to look like their internal portal, and they wanted to have some approval process that they have to go through and things like that. So they actually, quote unquote, hired us to build this development for them. So that's an option if you like it, if you think is great, but it's just missing a feature that you really have to have. Either you can tell us about it and then we can put it in a roadmap, and of course that doesn't cost you anything, or you can say, I want it, I'm willing to pay for it, and I don't want to wait until you get to put it on your roadmap. I wanted to have a project to get this done just for me. That's also a possibility. I want to thank you all for the time. Hopefully this was helpful. I really hope that I wasn't, well, I do know that I was talking very, very fast, because when I get excited about this, I start speaking very fast. This is very exciting to me, and I don't know, I just get excited and start talking fast. So hopefully it was understandable, even though it was fast.